If I look a bit sad, it's just because I watched a sad TikTok. There's nothing actually wrong, I promise. Oh, let me get comfy. Guys, we've upgraded. I've got a new ring light and it feels like I can't actually see where the camera is, it's that bright. But anyway, it's fine. I'm hoping if I close my eyes, all I can see is like the ring light, and I think that might be an issue. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. My name is Bella and we're here for another week, which is very exciting because we are at the first week of January. And I've had my week off now, and you are currently in the second week of January. I need to remember this. I'm used to recording the podcast the week of the actual podcast, but now, because I'm a week ahead, I need to remember that you are watching this the second week of January and, alter the things that I'm saying accordingly. So anyway, welcome to your second week of January, people. You've done it. You've made it halfway through January, which is a little bit scary because this year's already going pretty fast. But I have stuck to my New Year's resolution things and I'm very impressed with myself. And do you know what I've done differently this year that I've never had before? I have on my notes app, like, this tick list of things that I need to do every day. Actually, things that I need to do. And it's like, drink three of my water bottles. I have like the big Hydro Flask one. Drink 3 of them. Go to the gym or go for a walk or do some type of movement. Can be anything, just has to be some type. In the mornings, I wake up, do 10 things I'm grateful for, and actually sit and then have to go through each of the things and think about being grateful for that thing. And then read 10 pages of my book, and then I'm reading this other book, which is like, one of those books where you read a page every single day and it tells you something about the day that you're going to have. Read that. So I have reading, tick those 2 things off, and gratitude. Journaling. I've also been doing my writing. Honestly, I'm very proud of myself because I'm never normally good at sticking at these things. It has only been 4 days, and only 2 of those days were at work. But I think, we've got to celebrate our wins, and this is a win. So far, the year has been lovely. I went out for a lovely meal. We did go out for a lovely meal, but I did not mentally prepare for the weather. Let me take you through our New Year's Eve. So I got back, lovely, went out for breakfast, lovely New Year's Eve day, all wholesome, cute vibes. Get back, do the podcast. That's when you last spoke to me. Then I get ready. I do about 3,000 trillion face masks, forgetting that face masks bring out spots. That's actually reminded me that I need to do that tonight. I got this. Okay, I don't know if I can get it, but it's like this sebum melter stuff. Okay, here, you can see it here. It's called sebum softener, and it's meant to get rid of all of the blackhead marks, and it's meant to get rid of that. Basically, I don't know how I used it so wrong because it did absolutely nothing, so I'm going to try that out again tonight. Did loads of face masks, got ready, did my hair, wore a nice outfit. We had a few Aperol spritzes, my favourite drink. And then we look outside. I'm like, oh, it's a little bit rainy. A little bit rainy. Not that much, but a little bit. I go outside. It's literally torrential rain. Not a little bit. It's torrential rain. So I have my umbrella and I'm wearing ballet pumps from Primark. Again, we're not talking about the most structurally sound shoe here. We're talking about something that's already holding on for dear life after going out on a night out as part of my costume for Halloween. Pulp Fiction. You know the sitch. And so I go out in these and there's no Ubers because obviously it's New Year's Eve. It's torrential rain and it's about 7:30, which I think is quite a typical time for people to go out for New Year's Eve. So we have to walk, okay? And we start off and, it's not too bad. It's just raining a little bit. But then it starts really raining. And we go to the first place that we're meant to go for a drink. It's a ticketed event. You can't get in there, which was a nightmare. I'm not paying £25 to have a drink when I'm not going to stay there all night. So then we were like, right, we're just going to have to run to Spoons because that's the only, stop off en route that we know isn't ticketed. I was like, looking back, we should have just gone to Turtle Bay. It's next door. I don't know why we didn't. But anyway, things were just, when it's frantic. It was frantic because of the weather. And so we ran. And so we ran all the way down Oxford Road to Spoons. Get into Spoons. All fine, have a pint there. Angelo Peretti is not Peroni. In my head, they're the same thing. When I tried Angelo Peretti, not a Peroni. Tastes very beery. Not my vibe. Not my cup of tea. But anyway, had that drink there and then brought on the mega run. And bear in mind, I've blow dried my hair, okay? I put effort in. This took me about 2 hours of my life and I love getting ready slowly. It's one of my favourite activities, to be honest. So we ran. And as we're running, we're going for it. all of a sudden they've barricaded all of the exits and entrances through St. Peter's Square. Maybe it's called that. I don't know if it's called that. Near the library, because it's the countdown. And that's where they're having the countdown. So you can't run through that. And so we're running this way, and then we have to run back, and then we have to go this way. And by the time I arrive, I just look like a drowned rat. Like I honestly just looked awful. Hair soaking, makeup running. I sat underneath a hand dryer for 5 minutes to try and like dry my hair in some type of way. Anyway, we arrived at the restaurant, had the loveliest dinner. We had this like 3-course set menu because last year, as you know, we went on a night out. And for me, I don't know why, but it was way more fun going out for dinner. And I think because we had the dinner, like we had 4 hours of the table, and it was expensive. It was. But the way I figured was, we're going to have spent this money anyway going out. We'd have spent a lot going on a night out. And it was awful weather. To think about going like bar hopping or something like that, it would have been awful weather for that because everyone just wanted to be inside. And I think that makes everywhere so much more crowded because it was like no one was outside because of how bad the weather was. I had to start tuna tartare. Very grown up, that. That felt like a very adult decision. And I was kind of eating it, trying not to think about what I was eating. Just like, it was delicious. It's nothing on the food, but sometimes I can think myself out of enjoying something. Like tonight, I've made spaghetti bolognese with meat. Someone who doesn't love meat, oh, I'm just trying not to think about it. I had a taste of it just then, and it tasted a bit too meaty for me, and that has slightly concerned me. But I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm just gonna think this is gonna be delicious. I will enjoy. And so, anyway, had truffle gnocchi with chicken. The truffle literally had creamed the gnocchi had cream truffle on the inside. It was incredible. And then I had ice cream for dessert. Amazing. There was a saxophone player, there was a DJ, we got champagne, great vibes. Then we had to run home. And let me tell you, the weather had got worse, if that was even humanly possible. So by the time I arrived back in the flat, what we thought was going to be like cute drinks, cute vibes, no. No. I was soaking. My leather jacket went. We're not even going to talk about it, but it's fine. But it's not fine. So I'm glad I went back for the umbrella because if I hadn't, that would have been a nightmare. But anyway, woke up New Year's Day. The weather again, shocking. So we went for Vietnamese food at this place called Pho Q. I think it's called that. I don't know if it's called that. It's spelled Phoque. Insane. Like the best ramen type thing I've had in ages. It was called, I had the bun noodles, which is like pho, but I think it has a spicy broth instead of like a non-spicy broth. There's probably more differences, but that was the biggest difference like in the menu that I could read. And I had the crab and fish cake one. Insane. So delicious. And you know, you're like, I wasn't hungover like badly, but I was a little bit hungover. And so having something like fresh and just like delicious, could not recommend more. We had to wait outside, we didn't book. I think max we were waiting like half an hour. It was so fine. And then we came back, cooked dinner. You know, it was a lovely New Year's Day. We were meant to go for a walk, that didn't happen. And so going out for dinner was like a nice little bit different, and we watched a nice film, and it was just wholesome vibes, which I enjoyed. And it's the energy that we're taking into 2025, because then I had a 2-day work week, which is delightful and should be the standard, should be the norm. Honestly, really enjoyed that. And then this weekend, not making it into a big deal, but we're having like a bit of like a non-drinking moment. Not in like a I will never drink again type thing, but in more of a just trying. It's January, okay? No one's doing anything anyway, so it's a time like it's quite a good time to choose not to drink. You know, it's not like it's the middle of summer because summer so many plans are centered around it. January, it's quite a typical thing to do dry Jan, so I feel like it's a good time to try it. I'm not setting myself like I'm doing this for the entire month because I've realized I get overwhelmed with goals. I'm just playing it by ear, but this weekend I just haven't drank. And it's been really nice. We went to a comedy club on Friday night. Then on Saturday, we went for like this really lovely walk in a place called like Tog's Nose. And if you're in Manchester, you get the train to Macclesfield, takes like 20 minutes, costs £8. Then you can walk straight from the station. You go up this big road for like maybe like 20 minutes, and then you go off onto a path and you walk all around it. And it was beautiful. And you can see like Manchester, there's loads of things you can see in the distance. It's like quite high up. So that was lovely. And then we came back, cooked a nice dinner. And I think one of my big flaws is that I think you have to fill the day with activities. You think you constantly have to do things. But the truth is, like, that was a big enough activity. And I try and push myself to do these things. And then I end up hating them and like questioning why I push myself to do them when I didn't even want to do it in the first place. And so we're learning our lesson. I didn't try and do 1,000 trillion things at once. I did only try and do this. And so that was better. And then today, another lovely day. Woke up early as per usual because I actually don't sleep in, I've realised, and I don't enjoy sleeping in. And I was having really vivid dreams at the moment. And so I was quite happy to wake up, to be honest. We went to the gym, went and got a coffee. I've made pasta, recording the podcast. Like, I can't lie, I haven't done loads today, but it's been nice not doing loads. And I have I've decided I need to have a few more hobbies. And so after this, I'm going to do my paint by numbers, And although I did pick too complicated of a paint by numbers, I'm very excited to do it. Like, I think it'll be a very calming experience. But the big thing for 2025 is to not force myself to do things that I think I should enjoy but don't, because I don't have to enjoy them. Like, it's absolutely fine. But anyway, on to the content of this week's episode. And the topic that we're going to speak about is worrying and overthinking. Because yesterday, when we went on this big walk, we were walking up the top, and it's like quite a long walk up to the top. And when we're up there, there's like loads of different viewpoints, and you kind of curve round like this. You go round and round and round and round and round. You get to the very top, and there was this board, and it showed you all of the different things that you could see in the distance. And in the very, very, very distance was like Manchester city centre. You could see it, and you could see all of the buildings. It was really cool. You'll have seen it from my Instagram post. And when we were up there, it just made me think that when we are in the city, everything feels so big and so overwhelming and so intense. Maybe overwhelming is the wrong word, but it just feels like everything is a lot. And then all of a sudden we've come away from the city and we're able to see it from a distance. And the city looks so tiny. It was like this big on my eyesight. And I was like, it's crazy to think how many people are there. It's crazy to think how many people live in that little environment, how many people are focused in that space, and how when I'm in that space, that's all that I can think about. That's all I think there is. And now I've come away from it and I'm able to see that in the perspective of every single thing else. And all of a sudden I'm realizing that there are so many other things to think about and do, and places in the world, there's so many things making up this picture. And it made me think a lot about how I overthink and how I worry, and how things like that, things like overthinking and worrying is kind of similar to that situation. Because when you're in the moment, when you are worrying about something, it feels all consuming. It feels like there's nothing else going on in your life. It feels like that is absolutely it. But the truth is there's so many other things going on. That is only one tiny part of your life usually. Usually the things that I'm overthinking take up the majority of my headspace, but are not the majority of my life. They're often tiny little things that are quite inconsequential and don't have that much impact on me as a person. Now, they might have a bit of impact, yes, but it's not life and death. It's not as massively intense as I'm making it out to be. But because it's all I overthink and worrying, I don't put anything else into the perspective. And seeing how big the city feels when I'm in it, and then coming away and seeing how tiny it is in comparison to everything else that is going on, reminded me how important it is to zoom out in those moments where we're really, really worrying, where something feels like so all-consuming. Because when you zoom out, you allow yourself to consider the other things going on in your life. It puts things in perspective. And it's important to put things in perspective, because then that makes you realize, is this as important as I think it is, or as I feel? Or is this something that is actually something that is quite manageable? It's just something that I don't have control over, and I'm just going to have to accept that because I don't have control over. And sometimes I think that my brain likes to worry, like it's this common environment that it likes to be in. It knows worrying. It knows anxiety. Me and anxiety are good friends. It knows it. And so it thinks that this is something for it to be comfortable in. But the reality is that being in that worrying mindset is tiring. It's exhausting. Like, I feel a big part of me deciding not to drink was that it made me really anxious the next day. Like, I get really bad anxiety, like shockingly bad anxiety. And I was like, you know what? I could do with a little moment of not feeling like this. I could do with a period of time where I don't feel so like waking up and, like your heart's like this, like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. And like having the internal talk within my brain of like, and in my head of being like, this isn't as bad as I think it is. This is very doable, is all well and good. But also trying to avoid situations that make me feel like that is also probably going to be even better, because although you can calm yourself down, avoiding your brain even starting to think that way, that has been the most helpful. And it's not to say never put yourself in situations where you're going to feel anxious again, but not putting myself in situations that are going to make me feel incredibly anxious for the time being is important. Because I think it just sets you off to like quite a steady, nice pace. And I think going out on the country walks and then kind of like thinking about how I can put these things in perspective and kind of have a slower, like more time, is also linked to this book that I'm reading at the moment called Wintering. And I'm going to go grab it now. I just went on such a big detour to find this. I tried some of my pasta sauce, had a catch up chat with everyone. But anyway, this is the book, okay? And the book is all about. Okay, here we go. Ooh. Wintering is a poignant and comforting meditation on the fallow periods of life, time when we must retreat to care and repair for ourselves. Catherine May thoughtfully shows us how to come through these times with the wisdom of knowing that, like the seasons, our winters and summers are the ebbs and flow of life. Why I'm bringing this book up now is because I think zooming out and like controlling the things that we're doing while we're worrying, trying to think a bit less about feeling anxious, trying to focus on how we can be a bit more present and, put things in perspective. A big part of that is slowing down, is allowing yourself to take in your surroundings, is allowing yourself to put things in perspective. And putting things in perspective means zooming out, which means taking time to think okay, this isn't actually everything. And I think this really links into the period of life that I'm trying to have right now, into this being January and slower, because December is such an intense period. It's lovely, it's amazing. We know all the great things about it, but it's a lot. And it's important to have these calmer periods of your life where you are more, just more quiet. Life can't be the high intensity that it is all of the time. Plants don't grow all the time. That's a lie. They do. But, there's not always summer. There can't always be summer. The leaves have to drop eventually in order to give your body and brain and mind time to rest and recuperate. And I'm going to read you this page from this book because it made me, it put things in perspective, but I am going to read for a little bit, and so I'll try and not keep it monotone. Our knowledge of winter is a fragment of childhood, almost innate. Almost innate. We learn about it in the surprising cluster of novels and fairy tales that are set in the snow. All the careful preparations that animals make to endure the cold, foodless months, hibernation and migration, deciduous trees dropping leaves, this is no accident. The changes that take place in winter are a kind of alchemy, an enchantment performed by ordinary creatures to survive. Dormice laying on a fat to hibernate, swallows navigating to South Africa, trees blazing out the final weeks of autumn. It is all very well to survive the abundant months of the spring and summer, but in winter we witness the full glory of nature, flourishing in lean times. Plants and animals don't fight the winter. They don't pretend it's not happening and attempt to carry on living the same lives that they lived in the summer. They prepare, they adapt. They perform extraordinary acts of metamorphosis to get them through. Winter is a time of withdrawing from the world, maximizing scant resources, carrying out acts of brutal efficiency, and vanishing from sight. But that's where the transformation occurs. Winter is not the death of the life cycle, but its crucible. Once we stop wishing it was summer, winter can be a glorious season where the world takes on a sparse beauty, and even the pavements sparkle. It's time for reflection and recuperation, for slow replenishment, for putting your house in order. In this book, I set out to understand winter by talking to those who know it intimately. The Finns who start preparing to winter in August, for example, or the people of Tromsø in Norway who don't see the sun from November to January. I will meet people who have lived through illness, failure, isolation, despair, and have come out renewed, and the people who work most closely with the brutal processes of the natural world. I'll explore how to prepare for winter and how to endure its bleakest days, and finally how to emerge again in the spring. Doing those deeply unfashionable things, slowing down, letting your spare time expand, getting enough sleep, resting, are radical acts these days, but they are essential. This is a crossroads we all know, a moment when you need to shed a skin. If you do, you'll expose all those painful nerve endings and feel so raw that while you'll need to take care of yourself for a while, if you don't, then that old skin will harden around you. It's one of the most important choices you'll ever make. And I think this is a big, it's a big thing that I'm thinking about coming into these next few months, January, February, March. As we're entering into the spring, this is this period where it is going to be slower, where it is going to be calmer, where I am able to rest and recuperate and think about the life that I want to have going into 2025. Going into my 25th year, where do I want this to go? And I think recognizing that the different seasons of life have to happen, that you can't function on high intensity all of the time, that it's important to have downtime. The kind of way that downtime can benefit you is so important, and it's something that we don't give enough time to. It's something that we don't consider enough. It's something that, this kind of hustle culture that we have and this, intensity that we all work out, I think it's interlinked with how we worry and overthink. We're kind of just overdoing everything. We're overstimulated. There's too much going on. It feels that way anyway. It feels like when you're worrying about absolutely everything, and you're having to consider every possible scenario, and you're having to make this okay. And it's just like this constant, like you're on a rat race. You're going, you're going, you're going, you're going, you're going. But the truth is, it's, we can choose how we want to feel in these next few months. We can choose to switch off. We can choose to make less plans. We can choose to not burn ourselves out. We can choose to make boundaries about what we want to do and when we want to do them. And I think those choices are important, because it's when we make those choices that we allow ourselves to have spare time. And it's that spare time that puts things in perspective. It's that spare time that stops us worrying too much. It's that spare time that stops us overthinking and makes us realize there are other things outside of these immediate worries that we have. And so, what I would encourage you at the moment, similar to me, we have got to stop thinking, A, overthinking absolutely everything and anything, but B, we've got to start thinking about how we can do that. And it's not focusing so much on the outcome, as I said in the last podcast episode, but it's focusing on the actions that we can get to that outcome. Realizing that the outcome is well and good to want, but you've got to take steps to get there. And the steps for me to stop worrying so much about everything is learning to put things in perspective, is zooming out. And the way that I zoom out is slowing down. It's allowing myself to take stock. It's allowing myself to really truly think about everything and lower the intensity. Because if you function at this high intensity, you end up burning yourself out. And we've all done it. We've all burnt ourselves out. We've all tried too much at something and it's just been a little bit intense. And I don't want that for us in 2025. And so I would really encourage you to try and think of ways that in the next coming weeks and months, you can slow down a little bit. You can hibernate just a little moment. Because at the moment in January, it is not, unless you're in Australia where it's summer, the peak of summer, it's very quiet. And I think it's important to have those moments of quiet. But anyway, on to the question part of this week's podcast episode. And I've had to borrow my boyfriend's phone because classic, I did not charge my laptop. No, I mean my iPad. And so here we are. But anyway. On to the question part of this week's podcast episode. First thing, what's the thing you're most looking forward to this year? The thing I'm most looking forward to, just having a full summer in Manchester, having a full year where I'm somewhere, feeling like, just really feeling like I've created a life here. I think that's something that's going to be really exciting. We have a lot of fun plans coming up. We've got a couple of festivals planned, and I really want to go to Madeira. And so I feel like this might be like a nice holidaying type year. But honestly, summer in the city is so much fun, and I'm excited to have been here for the entirety so I can like really enjoy it. Because every other year, like last year I was split places, the year before we were in Vietnam and then I went home. There's always been a thing, whereas this is the first summer where I'm consistently here all summer, and so I think that'll be really, really fun. And I've locked his phone. Great. 1 second. Okay. Oh, this ring light is bright and it is slightly blinding. How to stop feeling like I don't deserve love. First off, I'm sorry that you feel like that, because everyone deserves love, And I think if this was me, and I know when I'm answering these questions, what I'm saying isn't like it's not right or wrong. It's just what I would do in that situation. And so I think you stop feeling like, I think if I felt like I didn't deserve love, first thing would be I'd get a journal and I'd write in the journal why I felt like I didn't deserve love. Not just like thinking that there's that feeling like, why do you think, like, what is it that makes you think that you don't deserve that? And why does that make you feel like that? And then I'd journal the type of love that I want to have. And I'd question, why don't I think I can have that? And if I had solid reasons about why I didn't think I could have that, I'd really, try and work on those things. I'd make myself a little plan and I'd try and really work on that negative talk inside my head that made me think it wasn't something that I could have. And I think through affirmations in the mirror and standing up tall and listening to them before you go to sleep and all of these things that we think are silly, they actually have a big impact, because it's the self-talk that you have to yourself that impacts the way that you talk to others and yourself. And so that little voice inside your head, if that's constantly telling you that you don't deserve love, then that's going to be something that you think happens all of the time. That's what you think is going to be a truth. But realizing that you can program that voice inside your head to be kinder to yourself, to be nicer, to be more sympathetic is important. And so I'd then write down a list of affirmations that I felt supported me into feeling the way that I wanted to feel. And I'd really work on that, you know. I'd really, really, I'd be saying those morning, noon, and night. I would have them on my phone as a little voice memo, and I'd just put them in my headphones whenever I had a little spare minute, and I'd really start working on it. And any time that I did feel that way, it's not enough to just accept it. You've got to argue against that voice inside your head. You know, you've got to say, no, I do. I do deserve love. I deserve a great type of love, and it's out there for me. I'm just, letting it find me. I'm letting it fall into place. I think that's what I would do. Okay, on to the next question. His phone locks very quickly. Will I ever feel good enough, or does the goalpost just keep moving? I think for me, it's not that I don't feel good enough. I do feel good enough now. So I think you do feel good enough, but you get excited about who you could grow into. And I think as you get older, it stops turning into this hateful thing. And as you grow more, it stops turning into this hateful, passionate thing. You're not hating yourself into a new person. You like who you are, but you could be even better. And it's an excitement. It's an excitement for growing. So yes, the goalposts I think do keep moving, but I think there's an excitement to who you could grow into rather than like something horrible, How to enjoy who I am and not how I look and not worry about changing in the future. I think this is a good episode for that. I think it's about putting things in perspective. I think a lot about worrying is hyperfixating on something that seems so important but is actually quite minor. And I think a big part of not hyperfixating on something is zooming out, is allowing yourself to have a moment, is allowing yourself to think that this isn't the be all and end all of everything and I will be okay. And I think enjoying who you are and how you look and not worrying about it and not worrying about changing the future and not worrying about the course that you're on is all about being more present. And you're more present by putting things in perspective and focusing on the little things. Like really try and notice the things around you. Slow down. If you're going too fast, things will pass you by. And I think slowing down can be really good at making you focus on the immediate present. As someone who's new to the podcast and loving it, are there any episodes you recommend? Let's have a look on Spotify. I would say listen to last year's New Year, New Me, and then listen to this year, New Year, Same Me, because I think it's quite interesting to like hear them back to back because it's really like me a year ago and me now and what's changed. I think a lot of favorite episodes. I really like all of it's funny going back because it feels like a little diary entry. I like the ring ring, it's your agony aunt's calling. That's a good episode. That's with my housemates from London. That was a fun episode. I think Finding a Life Outside of School is a good episode. I honestly think New Year, New Me and listening to that one, like that's a fun place to start. I think some of the best episodes like that people have really, really enjoyed have been Learning to Love Yourself, Learning to Love Life. Yeah, I think those ones are good ones. Confidence is key. I enjoyed that one. Exam anxiety. You know what? I think it's about what type of episode you want to listen to. You can definitely see what stages of my life I was going through. This is so funny to look down. But I would think about a topic that you want to and really go for that topic because honestly, I can't listen back to the old episodes because it makes me just feel a little bit weird. But on to the next topic. I would say, but yeah, not onto the next topic, but I would say, yeah, listen to last year's New Year's New Me and listen to this year's New Year Same Me. Do those as a little combo episode. I think it's really interesting because that's what I did when I recorded it. And I was like, hello, what were you thinking? Okay. Final question. What to do when your friends don't make time for you and hang out less in your 20s? I think this is the thing that we all really struggle with. And I think the key to friendships lasting in your 20s is having low effort friendships. And maybe people are going to disagree with me with this, but I think not low effort, low intensity. Okay. As you get older, you can't expect so much from people because there are so many people expecting so much from you. And the friendships that I've had that have worked and lasted are the ones where we might not text for 2 weeks and then we text and like, we're not bothered. I'm not bothered that you didn't reply to me. It doesn't matter. Obviously, if something's gone wrong and you need a reply, it's a different scenario if you're messaging them for something But if you just general chit chat and that type of thing, things come up, life comes up. Not holding anything against each other, I think, is really, really important. Apart from, and I'm not saying like don't have friends that like you don't make plans with and like that, but I mean this holding people to text messaging each other all of the time, I find that quite overwhelming. And sometimes I don't really want to be on my phone. And so I think that wasn't even the question. I've just gone on a little rabbit hole about that. But what to do when your friends don't make time for you and hang out less in your 20s? I think a lot about your 20s is growing. You grow up, and maybe your friends don't align with the person that you want to be as much anymore, and that's not wrong and that's not a bad thing. It's just the fact that you've grown up. You're a different person now. You're older than what you once were. You think differently about different things, and that's okay and that's allowed. You're allowed to grow, you're allowed to learn, but that might mean that people don't fit in your life as easily anymore. And so it sounds like they're not putting in the effort. And so I'd encourage you to like go out and meet other people. Just because they've been friends for, I don't know how many years, doesn't mean that you're not allowed to find other people. And I think we can spend a lot of time waiting for the person that we want to do the thing that we want them to do, but we're not actually facing the reality of who they are. We're not facing the reality of like they're not doing that. They're cancelling time and time again. They don't put effort into the friendship. Like it's time for me to also look for other people. It's not saying drop them, but it's saying that like you can fill your life with multiple different types of people. You can fill your life with many, many friends. And if you're not feeling like the friends you're surrounding yourself with are there for you in the way that you want them to be there for you, then I think it's time to, and it's scary. It's scary to say, like, I'm going to go to this club where I don't really know anyone. I'm going to go to this thing and try and meet some new people. It's scary. But so many of us in our 20s are in the same boat. We're moving to new cities where we don't know people. We are, starting new jobs. We're going to work like university. We're starting new. We're starting afresh. And I think especially coming from university life where you do normally have like a solid friendship group there, to then start again feels pretty intimidating, but it's possible. And, a lot of people do it, which means that when your friends that you want to be in your life aren't doing the things you want them to do, sometimes it's okay to also branch out and find some other people, because maybe the things you want to do aren't the things they want to do anymore. Like maybe it's not that you've outgrown each other, but the way that you want to socialize isn't doing it for them. Maybe you really love climbing and they don't like climbing. I don't know. But you could go to a climbing club and find people who really enjoy that. And I think that's where, the key things are. What I would also say is clear communication is important. And if you're really feeling like your friends are cancelling you all the time or not really making effort, and if this is a friendship that you really value, then make sure that you're taking the time to like communicate that. Because never assume that someone knows how you feel or how you're doing, because you have no idea what else they have going on. And, you might be making it really obvious in your head, but in their head, they have no idea. And so maybe a conversation's on the cards, just checking in to see how things are going, letting them know that you are feeling a little bit like you miss them, coming from a point of love that you miss hanging out with them. Would you like to do this with me? Because I think that's another thing. We can like complain. I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but like I've complained before about people not wanting to hang out with me and then realize that I've just been waiting for them to make the plan. That's not right. Proactively making the plan is important. But anyway, quickly, the new things that I've done this week. Started watching True Detectives. That's a really old TV show and it's great. I'm obsessed. It's really good. And we also, nope, yep, that's all I've been watching apart from Desperate Housewives, where I watched an entire episode that was hypothetical. And that really made me feel cross. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to speak to you again next week. I love you. Bye.